The great crystal spires of Zephyros Prime stretched toward the twin suns, their surfaces gleaming with the accumulated wisdom of 10,000 years. Inside the largest spire, 12 different alien species sat around a circular table that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the galaxy. Admiral. Vorthak's crystalline form pulsed with angry red light as he addressed the Galactic Hegemony Council. His voice rang like chimes in a storm, each word carefully chosen to convey the growing threat he perceived. Honored council members, we can no longer ignore what the humans have become, Vorthak declared. In just 18 months since first contact, they have proven themselves to be unlike any species we have encountered. The Thrakari representative, a massive bear-like creature with metallic fur, growled his agreement. Their technology advances at an impossible rate. Our intelligence reports show they have already begun integrating our shield generators into their primitive vessels. Across the table, the insectoid Veltar diplomat clicked her mandibles nervously. The psychological profiles are deeply disturbing. Unlike civilized species, humans show no instinct for submission to superior authority. They question everything, challenge every rule, and refuse to accept their place in the natural order. Vorthak activated a holographic display that showed the Sol system. Earth appeared as a blue marble surrounded by hundreds of crude human ships. Look at their fleet composition. No two vessels are identical. Each ship captain modifies their craft independently, creating chaos where there should be order. This is not the behavior of a stable civilization. The council members studied the display with growing unease. The human ships were ugly things, cobbled together from dozens of different technologies. They had taken hegemony trade samples and somehow made them work with their own primitive systems. What should have taken decades of careful research, the humans had accomplished in months through trial and error. There is worse news, Vorthak continued. During the diplomatic mission to their homeworld, Ambassador Keltan's ship experienced what humans call a malfunction. While our engineers worked to repair the quantum drive, human technicians observed the entire process. They asked no permission. They simply watched and learned. The Aquarian delegate speaking through her water-filled chamber bubbled with concern. How much did they see? Everything, Vorthak replied grimly. Within 6 weeks, human ships were spotted using modified quantum drives. Not perfect copies, but functional hybrids that actually exceeded our original specifications in some areas. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. The quantum drive had taken the Zephyrians 3 centuries to perfect. The idea that primitive humans could improve upon it was impossible to accept. The eldest council member, a gas being from the ethereal collective, spoke in whispers that somehow filled the room. What do you propose, Admiral? Vorthak's form brightened to a harsh white light. Immediate termination of the human species before they can spread beyond their home system. They possess the most dangerous combination of traits we have ever encountered: rapid adaptation, technological curiosity, and complete disregard for established authority. The Corvin representative, a reptilian humanoid with scales that shifted color with emotion, turned deep purple with worry. Surely you exaggerate the threat. They are 1 species on 1 world. We are 12 species spanning half the galaxy. That is exactly why we must act now, Vorthak insisted. Human psychological profiles show they do not think like us. Where we see the wisdom of stability, they see stagnation. Where we see proper hierarchy, they see oppression. They will never accept peaceful integration into galactic civilization. The hologram shifted to show recordings from the diplomatic meetings. Human Ambassador Chen sat across from the hegemony representatives, her expression calm but her eyes constantly moving, analyzing, cataloging everything she saw. Watch her behavior, Vorthak instructed. Even while discussing trade agreements, she studies our technology, our social structures, our weaknesses. This is not curiosity. It is reconnaissance. The Sylvan delegate, a plant-based life form that communicated through pheromone release, filled the air with the scent of growing alarm. The humans have also demonstrated an unusual capacity for deception. During the cultural exchange, they shared outdated technology while hiding their true capabilities. Vorthak nodded. Our analysis suggests their actual military strength is at least 3 times what they have revealed. More concerning, they appear to be preparing for conflict rather than cooperation. The evidence continued to mount. Human colonies had been established at strategic points throughout their system. Their asteroid mining operations were extracting materials far beyond their stated needs. Most disturbing of all, intercepted communications showed humans discussing the hegemony, with a mixture of fear and anticipation that suggested they expected eventual conflict. "They learn too fast," the Thrakari representative growled. "Give them another decade and they will match our technology. Give them a century and they will surpass it." The Veltar diplomat added her concerns. "Their social structure is chaos. No single authority controls their species. Hundreds of different governments, thousands of competing corporations, millions of independent thinkers all pursuing separate goals. How can we negotiate with such disorder?" Vorthak seized upon this point. "Exactly. They cannot be controlled because they refuse to be controlled. Every attempt at guidance is met with resistance. They see our offers of civilization as attempts at domination." The gas-being elder whispered again. "What of their military capabilities?" "Primitive but effective," Vorthak admitted. "Their weapons are crude kinetic launchers and fusion warheads. However, their tactical thinking is disturbing. They study historical conflicts with enthusiasm, learning from every defeat. They have already begun developing countermeasures for our standard pacification protocols." The hologram showed human military exercises, where ships deliberately destroyed themselves to achieve tactical objectives. The alien council members watched in horror as human vessels rammed enemy positions or detonated their own reactors to eliminate threats. "They glorify self-sacrifice in combat," Vorthak explained. "This is not the behavior of a rational species. They fight as if death in battle is preferable to surrender." The Corvan representative's scales turned black with fear. "Such fanaticism cannot be reasoned with." "Precisely why they must be eliminated," Vorthak concluded. "I propose we assemble the Grand Fleet and end this threat before it can mature. A show of overwhelming force will convince them to surrender peacefully." The council fell silent as they considered the unprecedented proposal. In their 10,000 years of galactic stewardship, the hegemony had never needed to completely eliminate a species. Their usual methods of peaceful integration or limited intervention had always sufficed. The elder spoke for all of them. "Very well. Prepare the Grand Fleet. Every member species will contribute their finest vessels. We will approach with overwhelming superiority and offer the humans one chance for peaceful termination." Vorthak's form pulsed with satisfaction. "The fleet will number over 10,000 ships representing the finest military technology in the galaxy. No species has ever refused such a demonstration of power." As the council dispersed to prepare for humanity's end, none of them considered that they might be making the greatest mistake in galactic history. They saw only a primitive species that needed to be eliminated before it could threaten their perfect order. They failed to understand that humans had one advantage no other species possessed: the ability to learn from their enemies and turn that knowledge into something new and terrible. The Grand Fleet began assembling at the edge of hegemony space, its commanders confident they were about to eliminate a minor threat to galactic stability. They had no idea they were about to create the very monster they feared. The alarm klaxons screamed across the command bridge of the UES Defiance as Admiral Sarah Chen watched the largest fleet in galactic history drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 10,000 alien ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the advanced technology of 12 different species. "Sweet Jesus," whispered Commander Torres at the sensor station. "Admiral, I'm reading Zephyrian crystal dreadnoughts, Thrakari battle carriers, Veltar stealth frigates. It's like they brought everything they had." Chen's jaw tightened as she studied the tactical display. Humanity's entire space fleet consisted of barely 300 ships, most of them converted cargo haulers and mining vessels fitted with whatever weapons Earth's shipyards could produce. Against the assembled might of the galactic hegemony, they looked like toys. "Signal from the lead vessel, Admiral," reported the communications officer. "They're demanding we prepare to receive a transmission." "Put it on screen," Chen ordered. The main display shimmered and revealed Admiral Vorthak's crystalline form. His body pulsed with cold blue light as he delivered his message with the certainty of absolute power. "Humans of Earth, you have been judged by the Galactic Hegemony Council. Your species has been found incompatible with galactic civilization. Your rapid technological advancement and resistance to proper authority make you a threat to the stability we have maintained for 10 millennia." Chen felt her crew's eyes on her as Vorthak continued his pronouncement. We offer you one opportunity for peaceful resolution. Surrender your vessels and submit to termination. Your species will be granted a swift and painless end. Refuse, and we will be forced to use more direct methods. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Chen stared at the alien armada for a long moment before activating her own communication system. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force," she said, her voice carrying across all frequencies. "I have a response to your generous offer." She paused, looking around at her crew, men and women who had volunteered to stand between their homeworld and annihilation. Go to hell. The reaction was immediate. Across the human fleet, crews cheered and weapons powered up. Earth's orbital defense platforms came online, their fusion cannons charging for the fight of their lives. Admiral Vorthak's form flickered with what might have been surprise before settling into an angry red glow. "So be it. All ships, commence pacification protocols." The hegemony fleet moved forward with the slow confidence of overwhelming superiority. Their first wave consisted of massive Thrakari battle carriers, each one larger than Earth's biggest space station. Energy beams lanced out from their weapons arrays, designed to disable rather than destroy. The humans had other ideas. Captain Maria Santos, commanding the destroyer UES Indomitable, led the first human attack run. Her ship was outgunned, out-armored, and completely outclassed by the alien vessels bearing down on her. She didn't care. "All power to engines," she ordered her crew. "Set collision course with that lead carrier." The Indomitable accelerated directly toward the Thrakari flagship, its crude kinetic cannons blazing. The alien ship's shields absorbed the human weapons with ease, but the aliens seemed confused by the human suicidal approach. "They're trying to ram us," the Thrakari captain reported to his fleet commander. "Why would they destroy themselves for such minimal damage?" The answer came when the Indomitable's reactor went critical just 50 meters from the carrier's hull. The explosion tore through both ships, taking the Thrakari flagship and its crew of 8,000 with it. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out again and again. Human ships that couldn't match alien firepower simply rammed their targets. Others set their reactors to overload and flew into the middle of enemy formations. Still others launched themselves at alien vessels and detonated nuclear warheads at point-blank range. Admiral Vorthak watched in growing horror as his supposedly inferior enemies destroyed ship after ship through sheer fanatical determination. "This is not warfare," he transmitted to his fellow commanders. "This is madness." Commander Torres on the Defiance was coordinating the defense of Earth's orbital installations when a squadron of Veltar stealth ships appeared behind the moon. Their quantum torpedoes tore through 3 defense platforms before the humans could react. "Bring us about," Chen ordered. "All batteries target those stealth ships." The Defiance turned to engage, but the Veltar vessels were already fading back into invisibility. Human sensors, designed for tracking asteroids and space debris, couldn't lock onto the advanced alien cloaking technology. That's when Lieutenant Kim at the sensor station had an idea that would have horrified any civilized species. "Admiral, request permission to detonate nuclear mines in grid pattern around Earth orbit." Chen understood immediately. If they couldn't see the enemy, they would make seeing unnecessary. Do it. Dozens of nuclear warheads detonated in sequence around Earth, creating a wall of radiation and debris that stripped away the Veltar ship's stealth capabilities. The human fleet pounced on the revealed enemies, destroying them with concentrated fire. The battle raged for 18 hours. Human ships fought with a desperation and ferocity that shocked their alien opponents. They used tactics no civilized species would consider: ramming attacks, suicide runs, reactor overloads, and nuclear area denial. But courage and determination could only do so much against overwhelming technological superiority. One by one, Earth's defenders fell. The orbital platforms were systematically destroyed. The human fleet was reduced to scattered survivors running for the outer system. Earth's shields failed under the concentrated bombardment of thousands of alien weapons. Admiral Chen, her bridge burning around her and half her crew dead, made the hardest decision of her life. All surviving vessels. "This is Admiral Chen. Execute evacuation protocol Exodus. Scatter to the colonies and take everything you can with you." The surviving human ships broke off from the battle and fled in all directions. They carried with them the remains of Earth's government, its scientists, its military leaders, and most importantly, Detailed sensor recordings of every alien ship and weapon system they had faced. Earth burned. The hegemony fleet bombarded the planet from orbit, turning its great cities into radioactive craters. Billions died in the flames, but not before the evacuation fleets had escaped with humanity's most precious resource, the survivors who would remember what had been done to them. Admiral Vorthak surveyed the smoking ruin of humanity's homeworld and felt a satisfaction mixed with unease. The humans had fought far more fiercely than predicted, and their tactics had been disturbingly effective despite their technological disadvantage. Pursuit fleets will hunt down the survivors, he reported to the Hegemony Council. The human threat has been neutralized. But in the outer system, Captain Elena Vasquez aboard the science vessel UES Prometheus was already analyzing the sensor data from the battle. She watched the recordings of alien ships and weapons, studying their formations, their tactics, their technology. Dr. Webb, she called to the chief xenotechnology specialist. How much of their tech can we reverse engineer from these scans? Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from his analysis console, his eyes bright with possibilities that would have terrified the aliens who thought they had won. Give me 6 months, Captain. I think I can give you ships that will make them regret they ever heard of humanity. The hegemony believed they had eliminated the human threat. They had no idea they had just provided their greatest enemy with the knowledge needed to forge weapons beyond their worst nightmares. In hidden bases throughout the outer colonies, human survivors began the work that would transform them from victims into something far more dangerous. An enemy that learned from every defeat and improved upon every lesson. 2 years after Earth burned, Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the engineering bay of Research Station Alpha, a hidden facility built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the Kepler sector. Around him, the remnants of humanity's greatest minds worked alongside salvaged alien technology in conditions that would have horrified the civilized species of the hegemony. The station looked like chaos to alien eyes. Human engineers had torn apart captured hegemony vessels and spread their components across dozens of work areas. Zephyrian crystal matrices sat next to Thrakari fusion cores. Veltar stealth generators were connected to Corvin neural processors through jury-rigged human interfaces that sparked and smoked, but somehow worked. Status report. Dr. Chen, Webb called to his chief materials scientist, the daughter of the admiral who had died defending Earth. Dr. Lisa Chen looked up from a workbench where she was modifying a Zephyrian energy crystal. Her hands were protected by crude radiation gloves as she carefully adjusted the crystal's harmonic frequency. We've increased power output by 40% over the original Zephyrian design, she reported. The aliens built these crystals for stability and longevity. We've modified them for maximum output. They'll burn out faster, but they'll hit harder. Webb nodded with satisfaction. It was the human way. Push everything to its limits and worry about consequences later. The hegemony species had spent centuries perfecting their technologies for long-term reliability. Humans took those same technologies and improved them by accepting risks their creators would never consider. Across the bay, Chief Engineer Rodriguez was working on something that would have given Thrakari designers nightmares. He had taken their carefully balanced fusion cores and modified them to run at temperatures that should have melted the containment systems. Fusion output is up 60%, Rodriguez reported. The containment field fluctuates more than the original specs allow, but our adaptive controls can handle it. The Thrakari were too conservative with their safety margins. Webb moved to the next station where Lieutenant Commander Park was integrating Veltar stealth technology with human sensor arrays. The result was an ugly hybrid that combined the best features of both systems. The stealth field generator works, but not the way the Veltar intended, Park explained. Their version makes you invisible. Our version makes you look like something else entirely. We can make a battleship appear to be a cargo hauler, or make a single ship look like an entire squadron. The modifications went beyond simple improvements. Human engineers were combining technologies from different species in ways that their original creators had never imagined. They took Aquarian bio-neural processors and connected them to ethereal quantum computers, creating hybrid thinking machines that processed information faster than any single species system. Webb's greatest achievement waited in the station's central bay. The prototype vessel UES Retribution sat in its cradle, looking like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The ship was an abomination of mixed technologies that would have offended every aesthetic principle of civilized spacefaring species. Its hull was Corvin biosteel that could repair itself when damaged. Its weapons were modified Zephyrian crystal arrays powered by overcharged Thrakari fusion cores. Its shields used Veltar adaptive technology enhanced with human quantum field generators. The ship's computer was a hybrid of 6 different alien processing systems tied together with human neural interfaces. Captain Elena Vasquez stood beside Webb as they watched technicians make final adjustments to the prototype. She had survived Earth's destruction aboard a science vessel and now commanded humanity's first revenge mission. "How does she look, Doctor?" Vasquez asked. "Like 12 different species had a nightmare and this crawled out," Webb replied with a grim smile. "But she'll outfight anything the hegemony has." The retribution was just the beginning. In hidden shipyards throughout the outer colonies, human survivors were building a fleet using hybrid technology that pushed alien designs beyond their intended limits. Each ship was different, customized by its crew with whatever improvements they could devise. The humans had learned the most important lesson from their defeat at Earth. Technology alone wasn't enough. They needed to understand their enemies' weaknesses and exploit them with ruthless efficiency. Commander Zhang's intelligence unit had been studying captured hegemony personnel and equipment for 2 years. His findings were disturbing for anyone who still believed in fair play. Each hegemony species has specific psychological and technological vulnerabilities, Zhang reported to the senior staff. The Zephyrians' crystal technology can be overloaded by harmonic resonance. The Thrakari have religious taboos that affect their tactical thinking. The Veltar rely so heavily on their stealth that they're helpless when it fails. The humans were preparing to fight a war unlike any the galaxy had seen, where the hegemony expected honor and civilized combat. They would face an enemy that had studied every weakness and prepared to exploit them without mercy. Dr. Webb's teams had also made breakthroughs that the alien species had never achieved individually. By combining technologies from multiple species, they had created systems that exceeded the sum of their parts. "Look at this," Webb said, activating a holographic display that showed the hybrid ship designs. Zephyrian crystals powered by Thrakari fusion and controlled by Veltar adaptive systems. The crystals adjust their frequency in real time to match their targets. The fusion cores provide more power than the original designers thought possible. The adaptive controls ensure optimal performance under any conditions. But the most important innovation was human in origin. The hegemony species had developed their technology separately over thousands of years. Each system was optimized for its creator's specific biology and thinking patterns. Humans had no such limitations. "We're not bound by any single species' evolutionary constraints," Webb explained to a gathering of ship captains preparing for the coming campaign. "We can use the best ideas from 12 different civilizations and combine them in ways none of them imagined." The first field test came when a hegemony patrol found Research Station Beta in the Vega system. 3 Veltar stealth ships approached the hidden facility, expecting to find terrified human refugees hiding in the darkness. Instead, they found Captain Morrison waiting for them aboard the prototype vessel UES Nemesis. The battle lasted 12 minutes. The Veltar ships tried to use their standard tactics: stealth approach, quantum torpedo barrage, fade back into invisibility. They had used these methods successfully against dozens of species over the millennia. The Nemesis was ready for them. Its hybrid sensors tracked the stealth ships through their gravitational shadows. Its modified Zephyrian weapons punched through Veltar shields that had never been designed to handle harmonically tuned crystal arrays. Its Thrakari-inspired missiles followed the alien ships even when they tried to cloak. When the smoke cleared, all 3 Veltar vessels were destroyed. The Nemesis had taken only minor damage to its adaptive biosteel hull, which was already beginning to repair itself. Captain Morrison's report to the hidden fleet was brief but telling. "Alien technology is impressive when used as designed. It's devastating when used correctly." The hegemony began to realize they faced something unprecedented. The surviving human ships weren't just raiding for supplies. They were hunting hegemony vessels with the patience and skill of natural predators. Each attack yielded more alien technology, more intelligence about hegemony capabilities, and more data for human engineers to analyze and improve upon. The hunters were becoming stronger with every victory. Dr. Webb stood in his laboratory and looked at the results of 2 years of desperate innovation. Humans had taken the accumulated knowledge of 12 alien civilizations and forged it into something entirely new. They had become what the hegemony had feared most, a species that could not only match their technology, but exceed it through sheer determination and ingenuity. Phase 1 is complete, he reported to the scattered human command centers. We have the ships, we have the weapons, and we have learned our enemy's weaknesses. Captain Vasquez received the message aboard the Retribution as her small fleet prepared to leave the Kepler sector. Around her, 24 hybrid ships waited for the order to begin humanity's revenge. Phase 2 begins now, she announced to her fleet. Time to show the hegemony what happens when you try to exterminate humanity. The galaxy was about to discover that destroying Earth had not eliminated the human threat. It had forged it into something far more dangerous than anything the hegemony's perfect order could imagine. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Vindication, watching as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyros system. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment. Behind her, 1,000 human ships materialized in formations that would have seemed impossible to the aliens who had destroyed Earth. These were not the crude vessels the hegemony remembered. Each ship was a masterpiece of hybrid technology, combining the best innovations from 12 different species and pushing them far beyond their original limitations. They were ugly by alien standards, asymmetrical, bristling with mismatched weapons and covered in armor that looked like patchwork. But they were also more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Signal from Zephyros Prime, Admiral, reported Commander Hayes at the communication station. Admiral Vorthak is requesting immediate communication. Put him through, Vasquez ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Vorthak's crystalline form aboard his flagship. His body pulsed with agitated orange light as he stared at the human fleet in disbelief. Impossible, Vorthak whispered. Your species was eliminated. Earth burns. Your fleets were destroyed. Vasquez smiled coldly. Earth burns, yes. But we didn't die. We learned. And now we're here to return the favor. Vorthak's form shifted to angry red. You cannot threaten Zephyros Prime. Our defense fleet numbers 3,000 vessels. Our orbital platforms have protected this world for 5 millennia. Your defense fleet is impressive, Vasquez agreed. Unfortunately for you, we've spent 3 years studying your technology. We know exactly how it works. More importantly, we know how to make it stop working. Around Zephyros Prime, the planet's crystal-based defense grid powered up. Massive energy arrays focused on the approaching human fleet, charging weapons that could shatter mountains. The Zephyrian defense fleet moved into formation, their ships gleaming with the accumulated technological mastery of thousands of years. Dr. Webb's modifications were about to be tested on the largest scale yet. All ships, initiate harmonics protocol, Vasquez commanded. Across the human fleet, modified Zephyrian crystal arrays began broadcasting specific frequencies. But these weren't the stable, controlled harmonics the aliens used. Human engineers had studied the resonant frequencies of Zephyrian technology and discovered something their creators had never imagined. The crystals could be made to tear themselves apart. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zephyros Prime's orbital defense platforms began vibrating as their own crystal matrices turned against them. The harmonic resonance built rapidly, causing the massive arrays to crack and shatter. One by one, the platforms that had guarded the Zephyrian homeworld for millennia destroyed themselves. Admiral Vorthak watched in horror as his fleet's crystal-based weapons began malfunctioning. Ships that had served faithfully for centuries suddenly found their main systems failing as their own technology betrayed them. Impossible, Vorthak transmitted. Our crystals are perfectly tuned. They cannot be disrupted by external harmonics. You're right, Vasquez replied. They can't be disrupted by external harmonics. But they can be convinced to generate destructive harmonics internally. We just had to teach them the right frequency. The human fleet advanced through the failing Zephyrian defenses. But they weren't simply destroying. They were demonstrating superiority. Each human ship carried modified versions of Zephyrian technology that worked better than the originals. Their crystal arrays were more powerful, their energy shields more adaptable, their sensors more precise. Captain Morrison, commanding the strike cruiser UES Nemesis, led the assault on Vorthak's flagship. His ship was one of the newer designs, incorporating improvements from captured technology of 6 different species. Target their quantum resonance chamber, Morrison ordered his weapons officer. Dr. Webb's analysis says that's their primary vulnerability. The Nemesis fired modified Thrakari plasma bolts guided by Veltar targeting systems and enhanced with Aquarian bio-neural tracking. The shots punched through Zephyrian shields that had been considered impenetrable and struck precisely where human intelligence said they would do the most damage. Vorthak's flagship began losing power as its primary systems failed in cascade. The proud Zephyrian admiral found himself helpless as his supposedly superior technology was turned against him by enemies he had thought eliminated. How? Vorthak demanded as his ship drifted powerless. How do primitives achieve what we could not in millennia of development? Vasquez's response was broadcast across all frequencies so every alien in the system could hear it. Because you never had to fight for survival against impossible odds. You never had to take broken pieces and make them into something better. You never learned the most important lesson. The best technology isn't the most advanced, it's the most adaptable. Similar scenes played out across hegemony space as human fleets struck at system after system. The Thrakari industrial world of Forge Prime fell when human ships used modified fusion weapons that turned the planet's own manufacturing centers into bombs. The Veltar stealth bases were eliminated by hunters that could track cloaked ships through methods their creators had never considered. Each species faced weapons and tactics specifically designed to exploit their particular weaknesses. The humans had studied their enemies for 3 years, learning not just their technology but their psychology, their culture, their deepest fears. Commander Zhang's intelligence division had prepared psychological warfare programs tailored to each species. The Corvin were terrified by threats to their genetic purity, so human ships broadcast signals that disrupted their bio-neural networks. The Aquarian feared contamination of their water worlds, so human weapons released harmless but persistent nanoparticles that triggered their deepest phobias. But the most devastating weapon was humanity's relentless adaptation. Every hegemony countermeasure was studied, understood, and overcome within days. When the ethereal collective tried to use quantum phase weapons, human ships were already equipped with counters based on their own captured technology. When the Sylvan deployed bioplague weapons, human vessels had adaptive immune systems that neutralized the attack and turned it back on its creators. Admiral Chen, now commanding the Second Fleet from the carrier UES Phoenix, coordinated the assault on the hegemony's central command station. The massive facility orbited the galactic core, protected by the combined fleets of all 12 member species. This is where they decided to exterminate humanity, Chen announced to her fleet. This is where they signed our death warrant. Time to show them what that decision cost them. The battle for the command station lasted 3 days. The hegemony threw everything they had at the human fleets, super weapons that could crack planets, reality warping devices that bent space itself, ancient technologies from races long extinct. The humans adapted to each new threat with frightening speed. Their ships changed configuration mid-battle, rebuilding themselves to counter whatever the aliens deployed. Their adaptive armor evolved to resist new weapons. Their quantum computers calculated countermeasures faster than the aliens could implement new attacks. Dr. Webb watched the battle from the research vessel UES Innovation, analyzing each alien weapon and immediately transmitting improvements to the human fleet. His teams had learned to reverse engineer alien technology in real time, often improving upon it before its creators could fully deploy it. They're using ethereal phase shift weapons, Webb reported, analyzing. Countermeasure developed, transmitting upgrade patterns to all ships. Across the human fleet, adaptive manufacturing systems built new defensive arrays based on Webb's analysis. Within minutes, ships that had been vulnerable to phase shift weapons were not only protected but using the same technology in their own weapons. The hegemony command station fell when human ships used a combination of 12 different technologies to create a weapon none of the alien species had imagined possible. Zephyrian crystals powered by Thrakari fusion, controlled by Veltar adaptation systems, guided by Aquarian bio-neural networks, and enhanced with purely human innovations combined to create an energy beam that punched through every defense the station possessed. As the massive facility broke apart, Admiral Vorthak's final transmission reached the human fleet. "You have become the very monster we feared," he said. his crystalline form flickering with defeat. We tried to prevent the galaxy's destruction, and instead we created it. Admiral Vasquez's response was cold and final. You created nothing. You revealed what was already there. Humanity doesn't destroy, we adapt, we improve, we overcome. The only thing you accomplished was teaching us that the galaxy needed better guardians. The hegemony's military power was broken. Their fleets were scattered or captured. Their technological advantages had been turned against them by an enemy that learned faster than they could adapt. But across human space, something new was being born. The survivors who had fled Earth's destruction had become something more than they had been before. They were no longer just human. They were the synthesis of everything the galaxy had to offer, improved and enhanced by the uniquely human ability to take the best from their enemies and make it their own. The war was over. The real work was about to begin. 5 years after Earth burned, Admiral Sarah Chen, now Fleet Admiral of humanity's Navy, stood in the observation deck of the UES Vindication as it orbited the restored Earth. Below her, the blue world that had once been a smoking ruin was alive again. Cities of crystal and steel rose from landscapes that had been carefully rebuilt using bioengineering technology adapted from dozens of different species. The Earth that had been reborn was not the same world that had died. It was better. Atmospheric processors based on Sylvan biotechnology had cleaned the air in months instead of centuries. Zephyrian crystal formations provided clean energy, while Thrakari fusion cores powered the great industrial complexes. Veltar's stealth technology protected the planet from detection, though such protection was no longer necessary. Status report from the Galactic Council, Admiral, reported Commander Torres, his hair now silver but his loyalty unchanged from their days defending the original Earth. Chen accepted the datapad and reviewed the latest reports from across human space. The transformation had been remarkable and troubling to many of the surviving alien species. Humanity had not simply conquered the hegemony, they had absorbed it. Every species that had once sought to eliminate humans now found themselves part of something larger and more complex than anything the galaxy had known. Dr. Webb, now elderly but still brilliant, joined Chen on the observation deck. His latest report made for fascinating reading. The integration programs are succeeding beyond our projections, Webb said. 47 species have requested full integration into human space. Another 63 have established trade and research partnerships. Even former hegemony member species are abandoning their old territories to join us. It had not been conquest in any traditional sense. Humanity had won the war through superior adaptation and technology, but they had won the peace through something the galaxy had never seen, the ability to make their former enemies into valued partners. The key had been humanity's unique approach to alien cultures. Where the hegemony had demanded conformity to established order, humans celebrated diversity. Each species brought knowledge and capabilities that humans studied, learned from, and improved upon. How are the Zephyrians adapting to the new crystal synthesis techniques? Chen asked. Webb smiled. They're amazed. We've shown them how to grow crystals that exceed anything they achieved in 10 millennia. Their scientists are calling it miraculous. I call it basic human innovation. Take something good and make it better. The transformation had not been easy for many species. The Thrakari had struggled with human concepts of individual initiative. The Veltar had been confused by human openness after millennia of living in stealth. The Aquarians had feared contamination of their pure cultures, but humanity had learned something important during their years of exile. Forced integration never worked. Instead, they offered partnership. Any species could maintain their own worlds, their own culture, their own way of life. But they could also participate in the growing network of human-led research stations, trade routes, and exploration missions. The results had exceeded everyone's expectations. Commander Park, now leading the diplomatic corps, provided updates on the various integration programs. The Corvin have established joint bioengineering facilities on 17 worlds, she reported. Their genetic expertise combined with our adaptive technology is producing medical breakthroughs that benefit all species. The Ethereal Collective has opened their quantum research to human scientists. Together, we've developed faster-than-light communication that makes instant coordination across the galaxy possible. But the most remarkable change was in human space itself. The scattered refugees who had fled Earth's destruction had become the core of a new civilization that spanned hundreds of worlds. Each human colony was different, shaped by local conditions and the particular alien species they worked with. On New Geneva, humans and Sylvan had created floating cities that grew from living trees modified with Zephyrian crystal technology. On Port Victory, Thrakari and human engineers built massive orbital shipyards that produced vessels incorporating the best technology from dozens of species. Admiral Vasquez, now commanding the exploration fleet, reported in from the Galactic Rim where human ships were making contact with species the hegemony had never encountered. We've established peaceful contact with the Resonance Collective beyond the Magellanic Bridge, Vasquez reported. Their sonic-based technology could revolutionize our communication systems. They're interested in joining our research programs. Chen reviewed the fleet reports with satisfaction. Humanity's navy was no longer just ships and weapons. It was mobile laboratories, diplomatic missions, and exploration vessels that carried human culture and innovation to every corner of the galaxy. The most important change was in humanity itself. The desperate refugees who had once hidden in asteroid bases had become something unprecedented, a species that could adopt the best aspects of any culture while maintaining their own essential character. Dr. Webb's daughter, now Dr. Sarah Webb and head of the Xenobiology Institute, provided the latest research on human genetic adaptation. We're seeing remarkable changes in human populations that work closely with other species, she reported. Not genetic modification, but natural adaptation. Humans working with aquarians show improved lung capacity for aquatic environments. Those partnering with ethereal beings develop enhanced quantum sensitivity. It's as if humanity is becoming a universal adapter species. The transformation went beyond biology. Human philosophy, art, and culture were evolving through contact with dozens of different ways of thinking. Human music now incorporated Corvin bioharmonic principles and Zephyrian crystal resonance. Human literature explored concepts borrowed from ethereal dimensional philosophy and Veltar stealth aesthetics. Most importantly, human science had become something unprecedented, a synthesis of every form of knowledge the galaxy possessed, unified by the human ability to see connections that other species missed. Chen walked to the Central Command Center, where she could observe the bustling activity of New Earth's orbital facilities. Thousands of ships from dozens of species moved through traffic patterns managed by hybrid AI systems that combined human adaptability with alien precision. Status of the outer exploration missions? She asked. 12 new species contacted in the past month, reported the duty officer. All have agreed to establish communication links. 3 have requested immediate cultural exchange programs. The galaxy is bigger and more diverse than even we imagined. Chen nodded with satisfaction. This was what humanity had become. Not conquerors, but explorers and integrators who could find value in any culture and improve upon any technology. The irony was not lost on her. The hegemony had tried to eliminate humanity because they feared humans would destroy galactic civilization. Instead, humanity had created a new form of civilization that was stronger, more diverse and more innovative than anything the galaxy had known. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority transmission. Chen accepted the communication and found herself looking at the leader of the reformed Zephyrian Republic, one of the most successful integration projects. Fleet Admiral Chen, the crystalline being said, his form pulsing with respectful blue light. I wanted to personally thank you for the gift you have given my people. Gift? Chen asked. Purpose, the Zephyrian replied. For 10 millennia my people maintained the same technologies, followed the same patterns, pursued the same goals. In 5 years working with humanity, we have achieved more innovation than in our entire previous history. You have shown us that perfection is not a destination, it is a journey of constant improvement. Chen smiled. That might be the most human thing anyone has ever said. As the transmission ended, Chen looked out at the thriving civilization that had grown from humanity's near extinction. The galaxy was no longer divided between the civilized and the primitive, the advanced and the backward. It was becoming a unified community where every species could contribute their unique strengths to the common good. Dr. Webb joined her at the viewport, now wearing the insignia of Director of Galactic Research. Any regrets, Admiral? He asked quietly. Chen considered the question. Earth had burned. Billions had died. Humanity had been forced to fight for survival against impossible odds and had emerged forever changed. "None," she said finally. "They tried to annihilate us because they thought we were a threat to their perfect order. They were right about one thing: we were a threat. But not to civilization. We were a threat to stagnation, to the idea that the galaxy had reached its peak. Around them, the greatest fleet in galactic history prepared for its next mission. Exploring beyond the galaxy's edge, seeking new species to meet, new knowledge to learn, new challenges to overcome. Humanity had survived annihilation and become something no species had ever been before: the galaxy's bridge between all forms of life and knowledge. They had proven that the greatest strength was not perfection, but the ability to adapt, improve, and grow. The hegemony had feared that humanity would destroy their civilization. Instead, humanity had given them something far more valuable: a future with infinite possibilities.